Previously on Liz's Life.
What do? I get rushed to the hospital in an ambulance. A series of more tests to figure out what in the world is going on because, honey, your rhythm is abnormal. Your heart is big, enlarged, and you say you have chest pains. You're going through a lot. So let's get to it. So I'm gonna tell you guys, I don't remember like every single detail from November 2019. We are in 2023. I am going to go with the pieces that I do remember. Now, during this hospital visit, like I said, there was a lot of tests going on. This hospital visit, because in November 2019, I was diagnosed with my first diagnosis for trophic cardiomyopathy. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy is a condition in which the heart muscle becomes abnormally thick. Now remember, I told you guys, they said that my heart was enlarged on the picture. Symptoms of this diagnosis. Symptoms would be the chest pain, sensation of fast fluttering or pounding heart, also known as palpitations. It makes it hard for the heart to pump blood. This condition makes it hard for the heart to pump blood because it's abnormally thick, your heart muscle, which in my case, that's what was going on. I believe that's what comes with the enlarged part because it was abnormally thick. And side note, guys, I did see a picture of my heart when like someone took a picture. I asked them, can they take a picture, someone from my team, and they took a picture of my heart after they took it out. And I don't have the picture. I never got it because the doctor who had it, she had left the team and I never got it. But I seen it, and yes, it was very large. Say that I felt these symptoms very often: the chest pain, the pounding. It always would feel like it was like my heart was beating on my chest, and I would explain that to my doctors and they would call it palpitations. And every time I would go back to the doctor and go back to the hospital and I would understand my diagnosis and everything that was going on with my heart more, I would just be like, I'm having palpitations. I would call them, I'm having palpitations. Now I have to go to the hospital, or I'm having shortness of breath. Or one thing that they used before and one thing that they use now is if I lay flat and I can't breathe, or it's like hard for me to breathe, that's a sign you need to go. So that was one of the symptoms, and like reading it back and putting it all together, I can see now that it was all connected. And you know how everything comes together, or everything like groups together once, like everything has a piece to it, but then in the end it all comes together. So yeah, I'm gonna be reading from my book because I was going to take my notes for you guys and then write it on here so you can see it on the whiteboard, but I'm just going to put it on the screen and just read from my book because the whiteboard is kind of backwards and I'm not gonna write it. Yeah, it's too much. Anyways, the second diagnosis, I was diagnosed with Danon syndrome in January 2020. Second diagnosis, okay? January 2020. Now listen, and listen closely, guys. Danon syndrome is a rare X-linked dominant genetic disorder that manifests with the clinical triad of, what's that first diagnosis I said? Manifests with the clinical triad of cardiomyopathy, skeletal myopathy, and intellectual disability. Hold on, not myopathy, and intellectual disability. The symptoms for Danon syndrome is weakening of the heart muscle, which is cardiomyopathy, stomach problems, visual abnormalities, and this is caused by a change, not the symptoms, but Danon syndrome is caused by a change, mutation, or variant in a gene called LAMP2. Now I'm going to put a screenshot of one of my notes, my clinical notes from the hospital that explains what I just said. The LAMP2 gene is what I had. That's what I had. And the main diagnosis of this is Danon syndrome. Okay, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Cardiomyopathy is the weakening of the heart muscle, which has to do with Danon syndrome. And that has to do with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, which is a condition in which the heart muscle becomes abnormally thick. Now, that by itself is a diagnosis by itself, but cardiomyopathy is intertwined with that. Now, it was explained to me like by the genetic team, and they explained to me everything, and now I don't know where I got this gene from because my parents never took the test, but anyways, now Danon syndrome, weakening of the heart muscle. So there was a lot going on. The heart muscle was weak. The heart muscle was thick. It was hard for it to pump blood. I was feeling chest pain, palpitations, and a lot of things. That is an overview of the first two diagnoses. Now, in January 2020, I had gotten an insertion of a sub-Q cardiac rhythm monitor. It was inserted 2 days before my birthday on 01/27/2020. It was inserted right between it was like in my boob, I would say, yeah. And it was inserted very quickly and very easily. They put like a little numbing cream and they just shot it in. It was removed later that year in December 17th. Now this device, as I explained to you guys earlier, I was experiencing a lot of rhythm problems, which they can tell through the EKG and all the other tests that they have done, but mainly through the EKG. I experienced a lot of rhythm problems, and this loop recorder, which was the easy name, it was placed inside my breast for it to monitor my heart and monitor its rhythm and so on and so forth. So it was placed there so when I go home, they can see it. They can access the data, they can access the rhythms, they can make sure everything's going well. And I don't have to frequently call them, even though that's not a problem, but I don't have to frequently call them like, oh, I feel something in my chest. They can check it to make sure if it's what I'm thinking it is or if it's what they're thinking it is. So if it's abnormal or most of the sort. But most of the time, my heart was the rhythm was abnormal and all of that. So it was removed 12/17/2020. If I didn't mention that, and it also was placed in 2 days before my birthday. I believe this admission I had got released like a day before my birthday, and I went out to eat, and I just got one of my procedures done, like a biopsy. Why? During this admission that I got in my boob, and I had a band-aid on my neck, which I always have band-aids on my neck. I don't know if you guys can see, but it's a whole bunch of look like a whole bunch of little dots and bumps, but it's from when they do biopsies and check on my little warrior down here, or when they used to check on my other warrior. So now let's move into the symptoms that I named for Danon syndrome. You guys, stomach problems, visual abnormalities. Now, I never had no problems in class seeing, in elementary and middle. I never had no problems outside seeing or on my phone seeing and things like that. I kid you not. After they discovered this disease, I now have to wear glasses. It took me a long time to go to the eye doctor because it just be a lot going on, a lot of appointments, a lot of blood tests, a lot of this, a lot of there, a lot of this, a lot of there. So it took me a long time, but I have to wear my glasses full time. I just went to the doctor and they gave me the wrong prescription, so now I have to go and get glasses again. But yes, stomach problems. I done had an endoscopy and a colonoscopy, and to figure out what was wrong, because I had GI problems, GI, like your stomach and all that sort. And nothing was found, but I do have a lot. I have a lot of stomach problems. My stomach hurts very often. My stomach never used to hurt this much. My stomach hurts like 4 days out of 7 days a week. Okay, and it's a lot. I have to use the bathroom, use the restroom a lot. Number 2, yes, and that's just the real, So this what comes with my life. This what comes with Alyssa's life, and this what comes with Alyssa's journey. Now we're gonna move on to the next diagnosis. Now, the diagnosis will be atrial fibrillation. Now, it's called paroxysmal. I cannot say the word atrial fibrillation. I will put the diagnosis on the screen, like I said. I'm reading from my book, guys. So excuse me if I'm not looking at the camera. Atrial fibrillation is an irregular, often rapid heart rate that commonly causes poor blood flow to the heart's upper chambers, which is called the atria. It beats out of coordination with the lower chambers, which is called the ventricles. The symptoms of atrial fibrillation is fast pounding heartbeat, shortness of breath, or lightheadedness. Now, this was like between this, the atrial fibrillation, and I also had ventricular tachycardia. I will put that on the screen as well. Between those two, those sent me through a rough world. The fibrillation to where it was, my heart would beat so fast. It would be so fast. I would be in the hospital, laying in the bed. I remember I would have a lot of ICU visits. I would be laying in the bed in the middle of the night, and then out of nowhere, beep, 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 beep. My heart rate then went up to about 200 or something, no lie, for me laying in the bed. It's beep, 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 beep. My doctor's running, I'm sweating from laying in the bed like I'm running a marathon. And it used to happen like every 5 minutes. And in the ICU, they're quick because they're right there. So is my other team, and the step down unit. But in the ICU, they're like more right there. They're right there. So every time it happened, my nurse would run in, or they would be like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" Or I would feel it until they go down, until it rested, until my heart rested for a little bit, and then it would come back up, and I'm just laying there, and I'm breathing, and I'm trying to catch my breath from sitting in the bed watching a kid movie, the 100th kid movie that I watched, and I'm sitting in the bed, and my heart just boop, 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 boop. I feel it, I'm sweating, and it would just be a lot. Like, atrial fibrillation was no joke. Ventricular tachycardia was no joke. It was very hard. Like, doing my everyday activities, I could barely do it. I couldn't get up. When I did get up, and when I did do what I could do, and I could make my bed, but I could, mind you, when I was a little younger, on the little younger side, I was on a twin. I was out of breath making the twin bed. I was out of breath walking to the bathroom. I was out of breath walking down the street. I was throwing up walking down the street. You know, it was a lot. Like, I was sweating, just waking up out of my sleep sweating, chest pounding, heart racing. Like, it was just a lot, like a lot. Honestly, during the beginning stages of my before the transplant, it was a lot. It was just as much as the transplant and after the transplant. I don't see nothing like much better. Actually, my transplant, I feel much better. Like, I don't waking up without a transplant was very much harder. It felt like I did a 10-hour shift and I ain't do nothing but get up and open my eyes. It was hard. It was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to live. I'm sorry, that was the truth. Like, I didn't want to keep pursuing this life. I didn't know what was going to happen next.